If you ask any athlete, they'll tell you there is no better feeling than being at the pinnacle of their sport. There is an overwhelming sensation that they can do no wrong. This is fed by the many people who show up to ride the coattails of the winner. As quickly as these people appear, they usually disappear. Fear isn't usually a quality you would associate with a motocross racer. But maybe a fear they do have is becoming irrelevant within the sport. And maybe, just maybe, that's what keeps these racers working harder than any other athlete in the world.
When I was racing in Scotland, it definitely wasn't serious at all for me. Just riding for fun and, you know, there's no pressure or nothing on me. When it started to get serious for me was when we moved to Canada. My dad owned a kitchen and cabinet business back in Scotland, and it was getting very stressful on my mum and dad. My dad used to do a lot of work in Canada. So he already had his passport, so it was easy for me and my sister to get a passport. So we just went to Canada just for a change of life and a breath of fresh air more than anything. Even the first few years I was in Canada, you know, it was all for fun, and I wasn't winning or any races or nothing. As I started winning races, we would come down to California in the winter, and that's when it started to get a little more serious because I was starting to be at the front of my class.
When you have two kids, you have to watch that everything's equal. And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but Dean was the guy that was always could win races and got the attention, blah, blah, blah. But Dean got hired on with Team Green, and that was a saviour.
I was racing the US Open in 2005 on a YZ85, and Dave Gillen was very interested in me. And he, pretty much from that race, after that is when I got a Team Green ride for 2006. So that was just massive for me and the most exciting time ever, because obviously I always looked at being a Team Green rider.
We're not a wealthy family, we're not a poor family, but we're not a wealthy family. And Team Green supplied the bikes and gave them the knowledge, and Dean put the work in.
It was kind of always tough because it used to just be me, my mum and sister in the motorhome, going to the races and just hitting every single Kawasaki contingency race just to make it to the next races, because you got paid off of those, and that was a huge help to us. And then to be able that last year in amateurs to, everything to kind of click and win everything, and it was really good for us, and yeah, it helped me succeed, to get a pro ride. I went to public school until I think 7th grade maybe. And then after that, I just went dead homeschool.
Which was murder. Terrible, terrible, terrible. We always tried to do the school before we went riding. And then obviously arrangements made that difficult because you wanted to be there in the morning instead of the afternoon, and
You could put a gun to my head and say do the work, and I just wouldn't do it. And that was really hard for me and my mum, because my mum really drilled me hard on it and it was always on my case.
Homeschooling, you better go into school, because it ends up your dad's your mechanic, your mum's your school teacher, and then your mum and dad as well. Very, very difficult to keep the peace in the home and keep everybody's attitude where it should be.
And us being from Scotland, we're not really shy to speak our minds. And my mom's, do your work, and I'm not doing it. You know, I would fight tooth and nail with her, and it was actually kind of tough on us. We'd have a lot of fights over it.
And it's just difficult, very difficult to try and keep everything smooth, I guess.
I remember there was one year where I don't even know how I passed. I barely did much schoolwork. I just knew what I wanted to do, and that was racing motorcycles, and had that dream of making racing my career, and I never cared about school, which is bad example to kids that are watching this, but I just really had my mind set that much on that I wanted to make racing my career, and that's why it'd be so scary to think that if I didn't make it in motocross, you know, where would I be? I'd have, you know, I didn't go to college or nothing, so. After Lorez, I just kept racing and riding and, you know, doing what I could. I went and spoke to a few teams. I had 3 or 4 teams that really wanted to sign me, and they were getting really anxious and kind of getting, you know, a little overwhelmed, like they were just trying to get me signed. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep waiting for Mitch. There was never real clarity that, like, yeah, Mitch is really interested in you. Ryan Holiday at Kawasaki was really good for me as well. Ryan Holiday and Dave Gelland really helped me get on Mitch's team by kind of talking to Mitch for me. And
when Dean went for Mitch's job, Dean actually went up, chapped Mitch's door, introduced himself, says, I'm going to ride for you, blah, 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 or I'd like to ride for you, blah, blah, blah. And Mitch never told him to the very, very end, because it was between him and Blake Baggett. And the two of them are Kawasaki riders for a long time, so it was a very, very tough decision, I would imagine, to make.
I do remember in 2009, I walked into his office by myself, and I knew it was something that I had to do, just to prove the point to him that I really wanted to ride. And I just remember I'd be sitting in his office, my hands would be really sweaty, my palms would be sweaty, and he just always has this big extra large, big gulp cup filled with, you know, soda, and he just looks at you. So he's looking at me, so I like look away, and I like look back at me, still looking at me, and there's just a lot of awkward silence. But the point was I was going there to tell him that I really wanted to ride for him. I would do whatever it took to ride for him, and that's what I told him. But it was October, and I mean Supercross. I mean November, December is the main, you know, 2 months for Supercross, and I still hadn't heard anything from Mitch. So I just was waiting, and by the end of October, I finally got word.
And Dean had won 13 championships that year. I don't know how many Blake won, but he won quite a few also. And Dean was a fortunate guy, he got it right, and that's when he was number 108.
The first time I rode that bike, and it was a pretty awesome feeling. And I always remember when Mitch would come to the track my rookie year, I made sure I did more laps than anybody. I would be doing like you know, 3 15-lappers and just like pounding laps all day, just, you know, trying to impress him, and I'd be so smoked at the end of the day. And I always remember when I'd go to ride up to Mitch and I'd go to talk to him, I'd be so out of breath, but you gotta act like you're not tired, so you just, you know, breathe through your nose, and then right as you ride away from Mitch, you're like, oh, I can finally breathe. It's just funny because you'd always just act like you're in super good shape, and like, which I was, but Supercross just gets your heart rate really high. You gotta act like, you know, I'm barely breathing, but when you ride away, you get your last breaths. set the fastest qualifier, and then I came out and won the first moto, and then just right off the bat, boom, won the first moto. It was like, that was just the perfect way for me to start it off, and ever since then I knew I could be top 3 no matter what. So pretty much every single moto I was top 3, except maybe one I like fell, you know, maybe a couple times, but that whole time my consistency was there, and by the end I just kept getting faster. Then I was winning a lot of motos at the beginning of the series, but I wasn't winning overalls. And by the end I just started ticking off overalls, and my points lead just started expanding.
Second to last race, he phoned me and says, "Dad, I can take the overall and I can win the championship, blah blah blah. Do you want me to wait until Pala?"
I just had so much confidence in myself. I mean, as bad as it sounds, but I was like, I feel like I'm going to win this next moto. Like, I know you guys aren't here, and it means a lot to me if you guys would be here, but should I like not win it and like wrap up in Pala?
Oh no, you get it done there and we'll celebrate at Pala, blah blah blah.
So I won the next moto and won the championship, and it just felt so great because I worked really hard, and I've always worked hard, but you know, it all just paid off, and it was a really good feeling. Coming to 2012, I remember coming into Anaheim 1, and I swear everybody just gave me the championship before the first round. Like, it was like, Wilson's got it without a doubt. So I went in really overconfident, and I just suffered with bad arm pump the first race. That was pretty bad. I crashed last lap, I got 6th. Came into the next race in Phoenix, I won it. So I was like, okay, good, I'm back to where I need to be. And then my inconsistency in Supercross was terrible. Tomac was on fire, riding very fast, and I couldn't match his speed, so I was kind of like trying too hard. Yeah, I mean, at Seattle, me and Eli were battling, and I was riding really aggressive. Pushed him off the track once, but I wasn't trying to push him off the track, I was just trying to stuff him and pass him. But yeah, I was just riding very aggressive and trying to win this thing. Like, you know, like he passed me, and I probably after a few laps, to be honest, he probably would have pulled me. So I'm just trying to like do what I can and beat him, like, you know, it's for a championship. So yeah, and then, you know, I think he didn't like that. I kind of stuffed him a few times. Then he came in and T-boned me pretty hard, and I crashed, and I put my arm out. And when I put my arm out, this was pretty much, I feel like, the road to Struggle Street, you know. Put my arm out, popped my shoulder out, got back up, my shoulder popped out 7 times during that main event, and I finished in 7th. I remember after when me and Tomac were battling for that championship, I remember looking at my Twitter, I had 3 people that said, "I hope you break your legs." That's what someone said to me, like, "I hope you break your legs for what you did to Tomac." I'm like, I'm the one that just got my shoulder blown out and just lost a lot of money on a championship that I've always wanted and never got. Like, but you want me to blow my legs out as well as my blown shoulder? Like, people are just gnarly and cruel. Like, you know, I had like a couple of those things where people just don't give any, you know, F words. They just want to, they just don't care. So finally, like, I had a #1 plate, something I've always dreamed of, racing outdoors. And I did the first moto of the Hangtown, and halfway through my shoulder popped out, and I said, "It's only round 1, I can't do this." So pretty much the first time in my career I pulled off. I've never been one to pull off. I always got told when you pull off it becomes easier to pull off, but my shoulder was popping out, so the season was done. Came back, got surgery, took the season off, and that was the end of 2012. I didn't even watch outdoors that year. I was so like just pissed off and like mad at the world because I had such a stellar year the year before, and then, you know, I had the points lead Supercross, didn't get the championship, and then there I was on the couch for outdoors, so I didn't even watch the races. It made me so angry just to watch the races that I was like, you know what, I just want to go 450, I'm over it. I really wanted to stay on Kawasaki. I was happy on my Kawasaki. And, you know, I was promised factory parts on this Jeff Ward team. My salary was really good, my bonuses were really good. I got my own gear deal. And the thing that really bothers me about that whole Jeff Ward deal that happened was that, well, for one, I got lied to the whole time. And second off, so many people told me, like, hey, don't go that direction, it's really shady. Don't go there, like, you know. And I got lied to so much that I started to believe it. Like, no, like, they say they've got some Indian casino coming in for the title sponsor, and you know, I'm good. I'm going to be all good. Sure enough, 1 month after signing with the team, I got a phone call from my agent, Tony Gardia, and he's like, hey, team's done, closed doors. And I was just like, now I look like an idiot, you know? I had so many people telling me, don't go on that team. I really want to get a Supercross championship, so I'm going to go for it. 2013, I'm going to win a light Supercross championship. So, 2013, I worked really hard that off season, was feeling really good, was riding really fast, I felt good. Came into the first round for my shoulder injury, and I won it. And then I was battling with Will Hunt for the championship. 4 rounds in, you know, I really felt like that was my championship. And just in my heat race in Indiana, I came around, tried to pass my teammate, and I just like landed on a tough block. Like I straightened up too early out of the turn, and it directed me into the tough block, and I crashed, and the impact was so heavy into that next jump. I remember when I got up and when I breathed in deep, something was like clicking like in my body, like, and then I remember I bent over and like I got a weird sensation in my back. I thought I broke my back. So I got up and I tried riding, and I couldn't do it. Went to the Asterisk mobile unit, and I just laid there, and I'm like, in my breath, I couldn't breathe. Ended up collapsing my lung. They strapped me on the board. I just remember getting hauled out of the Indiana. It's like, wow, there goes another Supercross championship, you know, that just quick as that. Okay, that's it. I'm going for the Supercross championship in the lights class one more time, and I'm gonna do everything I can to win it. So, started training with Ryan Hughes. Really enjoyed it. It was fun. Ryan was awesome. Came into the season, but probably experienced the worst arm pump I've ever experienced. Would always set pole in qualifying and win my heat races, but in the main events I just couldn't hang on. I started really pulling it together and closing in the points gap, and I was 12 points back from Anderson, and I was winning the main event in San Diego. Total brain fart move before the finish, endoed off it, crashed. It's funny how it worked, but Anderson landed on my brake caliper, and my brake caliper snapped off. So I had to pull into mechanics area, snip the front brake. Time I got going, I was a lap down. More or less, the championship was over then. you know, but I just wrote it out and did my best. So I was like, hey, let's try and go for this. I just wanted to stay on the same bike the whole year. I didn't like the whole 250, 450 thing like I did the year before. So I was like, worked really hard for the outdoors. And so I came to Glen Helen. In the first race, I came from last to 6th. I rode pretty good. I pushed the whole moto pretty hard. So the next moto, I was in 4th. 2 laps to go, coming down Glen Helen, and the whole moto, my bike was just cutting out. And I was trying to just do my corners as fast as I could and then roll the jumps. And I was salvaging it, you know, like I could do it. Coming down Glen Helen Hill, I remember I just came to give it a blip over a bump, and it just, boom, completely died. And I just went cartwheeling down the hill. 2 laps to go as well. I was like, and I got up and I thought I blew my knee out because like my knee just wiggled, and I ended up putting a massive hole in my leg. So that put me out for half the outdoors, and you know, there goes that. So that was pretty rough and another emotional time. You're like, wow, what's this? The 3rd year in a row? I was like, when's this gonna end? I got an awesome ride with Red Bull KTM, like the dream team. You know, I had Ian, Harrison, Roger, Jim at WP, like great mechanic, great team, just everything was awesome. I was eating everything perfect. I was going to bed at, you know, the right time. Like I was like a machine, just done everything. And for some reason, the whole off season, and like I felt so tight on the bike. I kept getting arm pump. I kept just, I don't know, I couldn't do more than 10 laps without tightening up super bad. So at the first race in Anaheim, I came and I you know, typical, I got like 4th in qualifying, so I was like, that's good. And then I just rode crappy in the races and had to go to the LCQ, won that, got 15th in the main event. I'm Ryan Dungey's teammate, I'm riding for Red Bull KTM, there's no, like I shouldn't be getting 15th. So I felt really good that week. I'm training at the track, the KTM test track, and Ryan, Marvin, and Anderson are all doing their moto, and they let me join in with them. So we're like lap 9 of the 15 laps that we were doing. The intensity was super high. I remember I'm breathing super heavy, and I just made the smallest mistake where I hit this rhythm section just a little bit too fast, and I landed at the bottom, which made me G out. And then it made me launch the double, and when I launched the double, the side of the track was a berm, and it was peaked up at the side. Landed on that, and it just ejected me. Just ejected. I'm just flying through the air. Landed on my feet, and my knee just completely folded and went to the side. And I'd never blown my knee out before, so. I remember driving home, and my cousin's driving me. I was driving to the doctor's actually, Dr. Alexander's, and I was just looking out the window, looking at the mountainside, and like my eyes are all teared up, and I'm just like, I want to keep doing this. Like I'm getting injured every time. I just always have people talking a load of shit on me, you know. It was just really hard on me emotionally, you know. And that's the first time I've ever really thought about just quitting, you know. Like, why do I want to keep dealing with being injured and just going through hell every time? And you know, I like take 10 steps forward and then 20 steps back. It's, you know, it's so tough when you have guys that you used to, that you wouldn't even be a threat to you, like, you know, like you wouldn't even consider him, you know, a challenge. And then you come back and these guys start beating you, and then you start trying so hard and pushing so hard, and then you get injured again because you're trying to get back to where you were. Look at the people that text you when I got a 15th place at Anaheim 1. Look at those people, you know, I probably had like 5 people text me after Anaheim 1. This one's tough. But I probably had 5 people text me after Anaheim 1. And then when I go and win a race, I've got 60 text messages on my phone, you know? So those are your true friends, you know? Those are people that care about you, you know? Like, you're in such a dark, low spot because you have a lot of pressure on you. You got sponsors expecting you to do well, gear companies that expect you to do well, where, you know, so you're upset and you're bummed out and you don't even feel like talking to anybody. Like, I was just not all there. Like, I would be on the starting line and I was just, my mind was just going crazy. Like, I doubted myself so much because I've been injured so many times, and I've had a few bike issues, you know, that kind of really mess with me mentally, where I don't want to go through that again, where something happens off a jump and it's just dead silence in the air, and then you just hear your bones cracking. Like, you know, so you sit on the starting line and you think worst case scenario, and that's what I was doing at the beginning of the season. I would sit on the starting line, I'd be thinking of the worst possible things that could happen to me. Oh, what if I get a first corner pile up? Oh man, Tomac's beside me, he was going fast today. Oh, there's Anderson beside me. Dude, he was repping today. I can't beat those guys. Like, just the worst mentally position I could be in. And it was just from all my injuries and doubting myself, and I was just in such a bad frame of mind, and something had to be done. And I was searching, and I'm like, something, you know, I'll do whatever it takes. So it's something a lot of people don't understand, and when you're sitting in the grandstands, you don't see a lot of the side of things that, you know, I personally go through. It's pretty gnarly.
Sometimes the darkest of places cannot be seen, but rather they are felt. Even while you try to claw your way out of these places, the critics will be there to question your every move. What these critics lack is a very unique ability, one which all champions have. They lack the ability to see past the feeling of darkness. Champions can take themselves to a place where pain and suffering while training is just a temporary state, a state in which they choose to exist and grow. In this state, they grow stronger, faster, and more resilient on their way back to the top step.
I mean, I just love the satisfaction motocross gives you, you know, like, you can be in any predicament in your life and it just kind of takes your mind off of everything. And when I mean satisfaction, I mean, like, you know, you go to the track and you do a 20-lap moto, like, that's not easy to do. Like, you're breathing heavy, you're fatiguing, you're getting sketchy in the whoops, like, it's pretty gnarly. But after it, the satisfaction, it's just like, or the satisfaction after having a good day's riding, you know, and driving home and you're in a good mood, you got the music on, you're like, life's good. Like, it's just what I love. Like, it's what I wake up thinking about, it's what I go to bed thinking about. It's just, I don't know, it's all I know. And it's like I said, when I went to Australia, to get away from motocross, like, it came to me. Like, I was at a motocross track in Australia, you know, I love it. So even though it's threw me on the ground a few times, I'll ride till the wheels fall off.